guys, today I'm reviewing a video by one of the most clueless and arrogant carnivore gurus on this platform. Also, if you think that as he's in his teens, thus it excuses him from being so clueless, you'd be wrong. This is because he isn't actually young, he just has zero dimorphism. So let's get on with the video.
Into this. Before we get started, of course, though, just like always, please subscribe to the Patreon if you haven't already to gain access to 1 week early uploads, ad-free content, uncensored content, and 1 extra video per week, as well as buying my book, please, Contraindicated, if you haven't already. And with that being said, now let's jump directly into this awesome video, I suspect.
You don't even really call yourself a carnivore anymore. Like, you changed your Instagram name and everything. Do you want to?
Well, yeah, that's funny. He changed his Instagram name far later than it should have actually been changed. What he did is he capitalized upon the name Carnivore MD until he garnered enough of a following to the point where he said to himself, well, it doesn't matter if I change my name now, everyone knows me as that, and I gained enough of a following to subsist off of the money that they, well, allow me to rake in. Okay, it was long overdue. Long overdue. That's the funny part.
The thing is that this guy is doing a similar thing. He's capitalizing off a popular fad diet to make money off his community. Personally, I don't have a big problem with this, but rather I'm pointing out the hypocrisy in his statement. In addition, Paul gave the community that Ed capitalizes off of so much mainstream appeal. Obviously, Paul no longer adheres to his diet, but his earlier work literally laid the foundation of the carnivore diet of today.
Briefly.
Yeah. So the backstory here is that I guess in 2018, I cut out all the plants from my diet and basically ate meat, organs, and fat for...
Okay, well, organs shouldn't have been consumed to any significant degree at all. That's another problem. Particularly liver because of its copper content. A lot of people think it's because of the vitamin A content. I don't know about getting vitamin A toxicity from liver, but copper, if present in excess within the body, at least in terms of the ratio of copper to other electrolytes, can perturb the electrolyte balance of the body, it seems. So that's a problem. You shouldn't have been consuming organs to any significant degree at all, Paul.
Although liver shouldn't be consumed to any excessive amount, it should be added in small quantities purely due to its high nutrient content. His statement of copper and its electrolyte effects holds somewhat of weight, however the actual effects is non-significant, and he uses a weak animal study to back it up. Also, the reason he's so scared of copper and its electrolyte effects is due to how eating low to no carbs worsens insulin, which then causes havoc with your electrolytes. As you'll see in this video, he's obsessed with finding ways to fix this. However, there's a simple solution, that being adding a small bolus of carbs to your diet.
2 years. During that time, I wrote the Carnivore Code, got interested in this carnivore diet,
Yeah, I read half of the Carnivore Code, and sorry, I'm not just saying this just to be a I really wasn't impressed. It was a very superficial argument piece or supporting piece for the carnivore diet. It really only focused on plant toxins. Only. It didn't focus really on carbohydrates whatsoever, at least from the amount that I read, at all.
Edward's book is similar. It doesn't really put carnivore in the best light. This is due to most of his points hindering purely on anecdotal or mechanistic data, with some low-quality human studies scattered around.
Foods to trigger autoimmunity in some people, which is kind of that's my framework because I had pretty bad eczema for a long time.
Yes, the whole plant toxins, it's a real thing. Okay, plants are designed to be biochemical geniuses and to engage in chemical warfare with other predators. Anything that interferes with the survival of a plant is a plant predator. There is a quantum size difference between us and insects, which are what plant toxins are primarily designed to target, but we are still plant predators, so they do still affect us. And there are phenomena such as accrual, so things can catch up to you as well. Even if they don't immediately harm you or kill you upon consumption, doesn't mean that they aren't toxic and doesn't mean that they should be consumed. Their consumption should be perpetuated to any significant degree at all.
Again, something hindering on weak mechanistic data. We know that not all plant photochemicals and toxins are harmful, with some actually being beneficial for humans. We know for a fact that plants are indicative of a longer lifespan. This is not to say that all people will benefit from plants. Some do get specific negative responses from plants and will actually benefit from an extreme elimination diet like the carnivore diet. However, these outliers do not disprove the fact that plants, for most people, are beneficial.
And I had bad eczematous reactions throughout medical school, college, even residency, that spurred me to think about this idea. Like, are all plants good for all people?
No, they're not. They're not indicated, at least.
Untrue.
These ideas around the carnivore diet. Now, the end of that story, or the next chapter of the story, was about 2 years into the carnivore diet. I started noticing persistence of unpleasant symptoms. So testosterone dropped to around 500.
Okay, so I don't care what the level was. What we care about is your presentation. You didn't present with low testosterone symptoms. Not once did you. And you still don't, actually. You present with other things. Doesn't seem to be low testosterone, though, Paul. Sean Baker, for example, has on multiple occasions presented with very low testosterone levels, both free and total. I believe total was somewhere in the hundreds, not even peaking 200. That man is not bereft of testosterone. There you go. Presentation matters. If your blood test showed low testosterone and you actually had low testosterone, we would have seen it, okay? There are symptoms.
This is untrue. Paul did present with low testosterone levels with low libido, low energy, and heart palpitations. Also, disregarding all empirical data due to not seeing symptoms is completely unsafe. This is due to how your mind can adapt and cope to your new surroundings, with some people not even realizing they're showing symptoms. Perimeters and guidelines on hormones are there for a reason. Obviously, some can get away with slightly more and less than others, but the significance that most people drop from carnivore diet is startling and shows it's totally contraindicative of an ideal diet. Another thing he does is use outliers to prove a trend. Just because Sean Baker looks high test doesn't stop how the average carnivore looks like a twink. He is a perfect example of this, the caricature of low test per SE. He's low muscle mass, extremely emotional, and has a high voice.
Sleep disturbances, palpitations, muscle.
So electrolyte imbalances, so that could be caused by a few things. It seems to be copper as one of them. More so, probably, it was insufficient protein consumption for your needs. At least insufficient protein consumption in one bolus. Even if you were getting enough protein overall for your physiological needs in a day, that does not necessarily mean that you were getting enough in one bolus to stimulate a sufficient insulin response to maintain electrolytes at the level of the kidney. Among other things like maintaining muscle mass, because insulin is required for muscle protein synthesis, and glucose administration for glycogen resynthesis in muscle cells, as well as liver cells, actually. Okay, so anyway. But also, if you did actually have low testosterone, that would also explain why you'd have low testosterone. Low hormones in general, thyroid, all that. But anyway.
He's right, some of Paul's side effects were due to an electrolyte issue. That being said, it's also due to a low free test as well, though his suggestions on how to fix it are wrong. This is due to the fact that the insulin response from one bolus of protein is not sufficient to maintain renal electrolyte balance on a carnivore diet, as well as not large enough response to reduce SHBG levels to an extent that it makes much difference on free test levels. The only way to truly fix this is by adding in a bolus of carbs.
When I was surfing or climbing, and I started to think, okay.
Yeah, so I should probably correct myself, honestly, now that I'm reflecting. Testosterone levels being low can cause palpitation, so he probably did have symptoms of low testosterone. But anyway, it all ties back to the main problem at hand here, and we'll get to it.
So he conceded that Paul does have low free testosterone. This is due to having no
long-term ketosis is not great for me.
Okay, so there it is. Paul, long-term ketosis is not indicated for anybody. No one said to be in long-term ketosis. Some people are saying that in the keto space, and they all develop problems. All of them, it seems, at some point. 5 days, maybe 7 days max to being in extended ketosis. You will start to have issues because ketosis is a catabolic situation. A catabolic state is the state in which we have existed in as a species, even including proto-humans that preceded our current speciation for 4.5 million years, for the majority of the time. Okay? We are not designed to be in a chronically catabolic state, however, because catabolism means the breaking down of a complex molecule for use into smaller ones for use. Eventually, catabolism starts to turn into degradation and erosion. Your body starts to enter a starvation episode. The myth is that ketosis itself is a starvation mechanism. No, it's not. Not at all. Once again, we've existed in that state for millions of years, for the most part. However, the other myth that's sort of in this keto space, this subgroup of this keto community, is that chronic ketosis, continuous long-term ketosis, is indicated. And this is what sparks this protein phobia. No! So there you go, Paul, you just admitted it. Long-term ketosis. There was your problem. I mean, at least that's a speculation. Was he actually in long-term ketosis? Perhaps not. Was he measuring this?
Carbs. Long-term ketosis, as he said, is contraindicated for humans. Now, the problem is that carnivore can cause long-term ketosis in some cases, unless you are having 150 grams plus in one sitting. Now, the problem with having 150 grams of protein in one sitting, or in throughout the day, is that it can also worsen your electrolyte balance. This is because it increases urea production, which is increased by amino acids contain nitrogen, which the liver converts into urea. Urea then must be excreted through the kidney. Urea must be dissolved in water to be excreted, so higher urea load means more water pulled into urine, thus increasing urine volume and so increased electrolyte loss. This is usually fine for spending on a balanced diet because you have a sufficient insulin response from carbs. But someone who is on a carnivore diet worsens their already horrendous electrolyte levels.
At the time,
How do you know that? So do you know that? Because if you were, then there you go. Slam dunk. There was your diagnosis.
monitoring blood ketones with a meter.
There we go. There is the diagnosis right there. There's the admission. There it is, Paul. You were in ketosis for too long because of an insufficient insulin response. And we'll get to that in a minute, I suspect, when he preys upon people's ignorance and beguiles people into his ideology because he's feigning some sort of magnanimity and feigning this sense of humility. It's all fabricated. The most dangerous people are the ones that espouse lies when they know they're lying and pretend to be good people when they do it. Okay? Arguably, people that are more dangerous than that are people that actually believe what they're saying, and I'm sort of starting to believe that Paul has bought into his own lies.
I highly agree with his statement. This is why the most dangerous people are carnivores and primal copers like him.
Ketosis, but definitely ketosis. And so at that point, I started to dig into the research a little bit more and understood that insulin signaling is critical at the level of the kidney.
Correct. Yes, you will develop leaky kidney syndrome, where the kidneys cannot maintain electrolyte balance, no matter how much electrolyte administration is occurring. Correct, Paul. You know what stimulates insulin, Paul? Well, we'll get to it.
The only thing that stimulates insulin enough to retain proper electrolytes is carbs. We'll see what he says in a minute.
With long-term ketosis. So at that point, I had to really kind of look at what I was doing and make this sort of learning judgment that long-term ketosis was not a great thing for me and probably not a great
It's not a great thing for anyone, Paul. So, okay, covered that.
thing for most humans. And at that point, I added honey and then fruit to my...
And why did you do that, Paul? Why the hell did you do that?
He did that as carbs are the only thing that can stimulate insulin enough to maintain a sufficient electrolyte level.
Carbohydrates stimulate an insulin spike. Correct. Precisely because it causes a glucose spike, something that is entirely contraindicated and insalubrious for humans to experience.
This is somewhat true. The effects of experiencing a glucose spike for a short period of time are not positive, but the amount of time which you actually experience them make its effects clinically insignificant at worst. The only people who truly experience negative effects due to carbs are eating an excessive amount. If you eat between 50 to 200 grams every day, you will experience a basically no difference due to the glucose spike. Now, if we take into account the negatives of not eating carbs like poor electrolyte levels, low free test, low IGF-1, worse gym performance, and many more, it's a no-brainer to add carbs.
The other nutrient, macronutrient, that stimulates insulin is, protein. Amino acids. For two reasons. Insulin is required for muscle protein synthesis, sure. But it's primarily because amino acids are used, if in a surplus, let's say, to be converted into glucose via gluconeogenesis. It has to do with keto acids and new amino acids created, this little trade-off that happens in the body. Okay, it enters through the Krebs cycle, oxaloacetate is produced, you get the gist. Maybe. Okay, that is what is used to create glucose in a ketogenic state. Fat isn't. Okay, fat doesn't really touch your insulin at all. Effectively, there's no response. You'd have to eat a ton of fat. Okay? You weren't eating sufficient protein, Paul. You just admitted it at this point. You were tracking ketones and you were not in a super deep state of ketosis the whole time, but you were in ketosis. Well, there's your problem. That's probably why you didn't develop the problems as quickly as other people that are in deep ketosis, because you were just riding the line. Really?
Again, something hindering on mechanistic data. We know that the insulin response from protein will only negligible, thus your electrolytes level will still be not sufficient.
Testosterone is 800, pre-testosterone.
Fantastic. Already covered the levels thing, but let's just say for the sake of the argument that, yeah, that actually represents your normal testosterone production and utilization in the body. Great. That's probably as a result of adequate insulin. Great. Goes right back to my point. What stimulates insulin, Paul?
The only way to fix this is with carbs. As we covered, protein doesn't stimulate insulin enough to reduce SHBG to improve free test significantly. The only thing that does is carbs.
Of hormones, at the level of electrolytes,
Sure.
at the level of lipids.
Okay, well, let me stop being pedantic and get to exactly what his implications are. Are you saying that there is a level, there is a threshold at which lipid concentrations within the body are deleterious? No evidence for that, is there? With respect to a normal functioning physiological system. We're not talking about diseases where certain enzymes are knocked out of the beta oxidation pathway or something. We're not talking about that stuff. We're not talking about familial hypercholesterolemia either. We're talking about normal functioning human beings. Okay, there's no evidence for that.
Yes, there is. There are plenty of meta-analysis studies proving certain lipid profiles will worsen your cardiovascular system, as well as your actual lifespan.
Again, with your tacit implication that really what it is actually is it's a desperate attempt to keep raking in these arguments that you can use to bolster your ideology, which is extremely, extremely lacking. It's so easily undermined, okay? Like a Jenga tower. And so you have to keep coming up with these ways of using pseudo-sophistication in order to aggrandize it and to bolster it in the perception of ignorant followers.
Ed does the same thing. He uses pseudoscience and big words to try and prove that his fad diet works.
Pretending like there is a lipid level that has been established to be deleterious in a normal physiological system, and actually has been established to occur in normal physiological systems.
As we went over previously, there is. He's just being ignorant that there isn't.
And to pretend that there's any evidence to suggest that that level is obtained by carbohydrate abstention. There's no evidence of that at all. But again, it's just a desperate attempt to bolster your argument and aggrandize it, okay? The other thing that you just mentioned, what was it?
This is true, though Paul made a faulty argument here.
Hydrates in their diet at the level of hormones, at the level of electrolytes.
Okay, yeah. So no, not necessarily in terms of your implications that something deleterious will occur. They're non-optimal, they're suboptimal in terms of the levels and in terms of the function of the human body with respect to an absence of carbohydrates. What you're really trying to say is an absence of an insulin response. And that's what you've done. You've tactically conflated the two and combined them together. When you don't have carbohydrates, you won't have a sufficient insulin response. So when he talks about an insufficient insulin response and he says that the symptoms of insufficient insulin is all these things, he's correct. But he has strategically and tactically equated that to an absence of carbohydrates, and that necessarily will occur when abstaining from carbohydrates, which isn't true.
It is true, as we went over previously, you can't get a sufficient insulin response from protein alone.
You were in a constant state of ketosis, low grade, whatever, constant state of ketosis, it's still ketosis. That's not indicated. What is indicated is to have one bolus of protein for your physiological needs, 2 max if you can't get all that food down, I get it, I understand, to stimulate a sufficient insulin response. You see,
The thing is, he has a faulty premise that proteins stimulate a sufficient insulin response, when in fact it doesn't.
Know that protein stimulates insulin. You know it stimulates insulin, okay? You don't talk about it until someone brings it up, rarely, and then you say, well, I don't think it's sufficient. Well, what makes you think that? Why do you think it's not sufficient? Oh, because research told you that? Oh, and then...
Because research has shown that it's insufficient. What's his reason for thinking it's sufficient? I pray he doesn't say anecdotes.
And then your next move is to put up a bunch of papers on the screen for 2 seconds of the abstracts, and of 3 perhaps, because when you really look at the studies Paul cites, they're all poor sample sizes, extremely small. One of them was on male sheep.
So I came across this paper with honey and it fascinated me. Honey, natural honey lowers...
7 male sheep or something? He cited that whenever he was defending his decision to implement honey into his diet. He said that it's indicated. He says it's actually healthy. Ridiculous. This is shameful.
You would never do this in this video, would you? Oh wait.
Flashback.
At least in terms of the ratio of copper to other electrolytes, can perturb the electrolyte balance of the body, it seems. So that's...
End of flashback.
And you are lulling and beguiling people into your dangerous ideology. And I've heard from other people, including a very famous person, maybe not really in this space, but in the fitness sphere, that has clients that he receives, that have gone to you, and they have complained to him that you made them, your advice at least, and the implementation of your advice made them far worse. Far worse. Dangerously worse. Oh, but you sit there and you get paid. See, what you've done is you've built your business model upon spouting lies. And so the chances of you actually stepping down, slim to none.
Exact same points can be made for you. You quite literally profit quite significantly off your lies.
Think of animal-based as just a framework. Like, okay, most of your diet is animal foods, at least in terms of calories.
And if it could get any worse. Calories. Goodness me. Binge my channel to find out my opinions on calories. Not even my opinions, just find out the facts on calories. But also, once again, it's not the majority of the diet. We already covered that, didn't we?
No way he doesn't believe in calories as well. Ha 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 ha. Literally the definition of a pseudoscientist. I'm gonna make a specific video for calories soon, so stay tuned. Ha.
Raw milk, and then I get a significant amount of calories from
No,
carbohydrates.
you don't get any calories from anything, Paul.
Haha. I doubt.
Fruit juice. Now you've started with the fruit juice thing. F me, Paul. I really, really don't wish it upon you, as much as it may seem like I'm a sadist on this channel in many ways, maybe, perhaps. But by my estimation, you are going to be well on your way soon, if you catch my drift. Downhill, health-wise. Anyway.
Doubt it. I think right now he's eating a better diet than you addition. Even though he eats too much carbs, at least he does consume them. That being said, Paul's doing some horrible things for a significant amount of time, like getting too much sun, which has aged him tremendously.
Diet, and I think that works a lot better for most people. Now,
well, I don't care what you think. You think a lot of things that are absolutely inane and incorrect.
Same with you, mate.
With that being said, Paul is a liar, in my opinion. Especially the Liver King thing, he is a liar for that. It's so obvious that he's a liar. It's either he's a liar or an imbecile, and both mean that you shouldn't be listening to him. It really, really is that simple.
Same can be said about Ed.
Please leave your thoughts in the comment section below, and also, once again, subscribe to the Patreon if you haven't already to gain access to all the things I said in the beginning that you will gain access to, and also buy my book Contraindicated, Closer Look and Revision of Mainstream Health Axioms that have perpetuated illness, disorder, disease for over a century if you haven't bought that book already either. And, most importantly, the link on the bottom of the screen, what is that? That is a link that will bring you to an amazing site with amazing products from an amazing brand known as Cerule. If you purchase product through that link, you will get a permanent 10% discount and a permanent free shipping discount on your orders when you sign up for monthly deliveries. If you'd like to learn more about those products, which I recommend everyone do before buying anything, please refer to the link in the top right corner of the screen, the Cerule products link, which is a complete elucidation and complete explanation of those products, what they are, who should take them, why you should take them, when to take them, etc., etc. And I would also further migrate to the description below to find a video done between myself and Professor Bart K on these products in further detail, as well as the business of Cerule itself. Also, if you would like to send one-time donations instead of recurring payments through Patreon and Cerule, I would recommend migrating to the description below as well to find a PayPal donation link and a GoFundMe donation link to leave those donations. I now have options available for that. And also, finally, email me at edgoki14@gmail.com if you have any other questions, such as, for example, I don't know, how to obtain those Cerule products for free, because who in their right mind wouldn't want that? So, with that being said, join me next time when we react to someone else that is not as misanthropic as Paul, because, well, that is a feat that is very difficult to achieve, I believe, by my estimation. So, till then.
Jesus, and he said Paul took advantage of the carnivore community. Quite literally 2 minutes of his video is ads for his products. Hope you guys enjoyed the video and learned.